Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
A very good evening to you and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Nena Oragwa. And our top stories tonight. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the immediate establishment of technical committees to finalize discussions on new joint Nigeria-China rail, power, manufacturing, agricultural and solid mineral projects. The President gave the directive today in Beijing after talks between his delegation and high-ranking Chinese government officials led by President Xi Jinping. Technical committees are to conclude their assignments before the end of next month. President Buhari, during the talks, welcomed China's readiness to assist Nigeria in a bid to rapidly industrialize and join the world. Meanwhile, in response to President Muhammadu Buhari's desire to make Nigeria self-sufficient in food production, President Jinping has offered $15 million agricultural assistance to Nigeria for the establishment of 50 agricultural demonstration farms across the country. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari has called on the Nigerian and Chinese business communities to work harder to reduce the trade imbalance between both countries, which is currently in China's favor. President Buhari, speaking at the opening of the Nigeria-China Business Investment Forum in Beijing, notes that trade and economic relations between both countries must be mutually beneficial and conducted with reciprocated respect and trust. The President says the administration is committed to supporting investors who are ready to establish manufacturing and processing facilities in Nigeria. The President equally assures the forum that his administration is doing everything possible to address concerns about security in Nigeria. Business and trade relations between Nigeria and China have grown astronomically in the last decade, with bilateral trade volumes rising from $2.8 billion in 2005 to $14.9 billion in 2015. Nigeria accounted for 8.3% of the total trade volume between China and Africa and 42% of the total trade volume between China and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS countries, in 2015. The ECOWAS Parliament has continued its extraordinary session with the meeting of the Committee on Strategic Plans to set agenda for the body for the next 4 years that are on the enhancement of the powers of the Parliament. The plan, according to members of the committee, is in this elementary stage and will soon be made public in consultation with members of the Parliament. Our correspondent, Kazim Kasali, has more in this report.
The members of the ECOWAS Parliament Committee on Enhancement of the Powers of the Parliament have been meeting to come up with a plan on how to enhance the powers of the body. After the first set of meetings by the committee, its chairman and first deputy speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament says it is still a work in progress, but assures that his committee is working to produce an acceptable document for the body.
It's extensive. It's not something that can be achieved within 1 or 2 weeks. It's going to take some time. The third legislator worked on it and they did a very beautiful job. But at the point of assenting to it by the authority of head of state, there were areas of disagreement. And so those are the areas that we are going to work on now.
These other committee members, the issues surrounding the enhancement of the powers of the ECOWAS Parliament is one that needs all to pull in the same direction.
And at the position we've reached, before we can make any headway, You know, like any parliamentary jurisdiction, when a document leaves the parliament and it gets to the executive, before you can make amendment or changes in that document, the document will have to be referred to the parliament.
In the Committee on Strategic Plans, its vice chairman says the next plenary on Thursday will serve as the platform where the members will reach a definite conclusion on the direction they will take, but not before this speech by a consultant to the body on a strategic plan to guide its activities for the next 4 years.
This parliament is growing from strength to strength. This is the fourth legislature. This parliament has been existing from 2000 to now. And the idea is to ensure that this parliament swims in favor of the tide.
He's been able to identify areas for which he thinks that this committee should consider and make proposals to the floor. We're talking of factors of virtually the role of the parliament. What impact are we going to make?
The deliberations are also expected to really get heated as soon as the members resumed after a closed-door meeting with the president of the ECOWAS Commission on Wednesday. Kazim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Economic Community of West African States Court of Justice sitting in Wuse, Abuja, is a feminist jurisdiction to hear a case filed by the former National Security Advisor, Sambo Dasuki, against the federal government. Dasuki is filing a fundamental rights enforcement suit before the court, challenging his continued detention without trial since December 2015 by the federal government. In a ruling, the chairman of the ECOWAS Court, Justice Friday Nwoke, dismissed the objection of the Nigerian government, which is contending that the court lacks jurisdiction to entertain the suits. Our judiciary correspondent, Basil Lukafo, has more in this report.
The former NSA, Sambo Dasuki, and the Nigerian government have been engaged in a legal battle over an alleged mismanagement of armed funds. Dasuki was rearrested by the operatives of the Department of the State Security Services shortly after perfecting the third bail granted him by the Nigerian court. He is asking the ECOWAS court to enforce his fundamental rights as enshrined in the African Charter on the People and Human Rights and the Nigerian Constitution. Counsel to federal government is arguing that the case against Dasuki is pending before Nigerian court and that the ECOWAS court lacks jurisdiction to intervene in the matter. Justice Nwoko, however, is ruling that the ECOWAS court has jurisdiction since the case is on human rights and it is not before any other international court.
The ECOWAS court was able to zero in on the crux of our application. And the crux of our application is that the detention, the continued detention and arrest of the applicant is arbitrary. It is contrary to every known laws in accordance with our contention.
The right of Nigerians, the right of people that were killed on account of dereliction of duty of the applicant supersedes the right or liberty of the individual applicant.
The matter has been fixed for May 17 for definite and accelerated hearing. Dasuki, through his legal team, is also asking the ECOWAS court to declare as unlawful, unconstitutional, and breach of his fundamental rights his arrest by the Nigerian government since last year without a lawful court order. He is equally claiming 500 million naira damages as a result of the arrest. Basil Okafo, CoreTV News, Abuja.
A witness testifying against former Chief of Air Staff Alex Bade is telling the Federal High Court in Abuja how the accused person siphoned over 3.9 billion naira from the account of the force within 1 year. Former Director of Finance and Account at the Nigerian Air Force, Salisu Abdullahi, who testified against Bade, said the accused committed the offense with the aid of officers who worked directly with him. Judiciary correspondent Basil Lukafo has more in this report.
The prosecution witness, being cross-examined by defense counsel, insisted that Bade diverted monthly 5.2 billion naira meant for the payment of salaries of NAF officials for his personal use. However, the witness answered in affirmative that he only mentioned about the 90 million naira first in court, contrary to his proof of evidence.
Today we continued with the cross-examination of the first witness called by the prosecution. And we had over 2 hours with him, but we were not able to finish.
The trial judge, Justice Okon Abang, has adjourned till April 19 for continuation of cross-examination on the prosecution witness. Basil Okafor, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Senate has been explaining its own side of the inclusion of the rail project reportedly smuggled into the 2016 budget. Speaking to newsmen after plenary, Senate spokesman Sabi Abdullahi says the Senate, seeing the importance of the Lagos-Calabar Road project, had to conclude it in the budget. Our correspondent Jamil Efegwa has more in this report.
The spokesman for the Senate recognized the benefits accrued to Nigerians if the rail project is included. He says the executive submitted the original budget without the 60 billion naira project, stating that they only follow the constitutional pattern which allows for a supplementary budget.
What Senator Ashafa said is not in conflict with what we are saying. The fact is, he also stated very clearly that that project was not included in the proposal that came from the executive.
The press, he's advising, should be coincide with their facts, especially relating to sensitive issues like the budget.
Having discussed this matter today, we are not ready to continuously poke one another. We are not going to keep poking one another.
More words coming from other members of the Senate indicate an identical position of the entire chamber.
If you go through the budget, you will realize that there was never a proposal from the presidency or the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the National Assembly where the Calabar Lagos project appeared.
Those things you see outside does not represent the flesh of our democracy. So I don't want to believe that there is anything like that called skirmishing. So people are free to read whatever they like, people are free to write whatever they want, but this democracy is bound by constitutional provisions.
This affirmation may just have put rest to the controversy over the rail project. It remains to be seen, however, whether or not President Muhammadu Buhari will, on the basis of this, assent to the budget and sign it into law. Jamil Efegwa, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Recently, the National Assembly passed a resolution compelling the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, to seal off the Kogi State House of Assembly. It also proposed the taking over of the Assembly's legislative functions pending the resolution of the crisis rocking it. But the AGF ordered the IGP to disregard the directive by the National Assembly, claiming that the legislature erred in its directive, saying it is mere misunderstanding which does not amount to any security threats. Nasarawa State House of Assembly has relieved 2 of the suspended lawmakers of the principal officers and also dismissed them from their various committees. The decision comes days after the suspension and other issues which led to a crisis. During a sitting of the House members, the Speaker, Abdullahi Balarabe, made it clear that dismissal is a decision of the All Progressive Congress Caucus of the House, which is a majority in the House. He said 2 lawmakers have been appointed to occupy the principal offices and some others to chair their various committees. On April 4, lawmakers disagreed on the governor's appointment of sole administrators to man affairs with the local government councils in the state, which resulted in the exchange of blows. Civil society organizations in the country are calling on the federal government to immediately put machineries in place to investigate Nigerians listed on the Panama paper leak. Speaking at a gathering in Abuja, the group says government should not just fold its hands, but rather set in motion a probe to determine the truth. Our correspondent, Jamil Efegwa, tells us more in this report.
About 10 Nigerians, some serving government officials, were among the large number of millionaires and billionaires allegedly operating offshore accounts. The information is contained in a Panamanian paper which is alleging that those mentioned either stole monies from their countries or are avoiding tax. Now the CSOs are taking it up with government to take action, especially the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
The reason that we have an EFCC is that when things like this happen globally and other nations are taking measures to establish how it affects them, our own EFCC, our own government, our own Ministry of Justice must show responsiveness.
The demand is continuing as the group says Nigerian people have been for long shortchanged by those who are supposed to be at the forefront of developmental processes in Nigeria.
Our own objective is to raise an awareness about the Panama paper leak and to demand that the federal government probe the paper so that at the end of the day, those Nigerians' names were mentioned will be investigated to see if they have invaded tax.
The fundamental question you need to ask yourself is, where are all this money going to? Definitely, it's going to certain investments in a way that also these people are in a way evading tax in order to deprive us resources that we should have been used for our own development purposes.
Verifying facts is what some are calling for as they call for caution in believing and acting on some of this information and allegations.
A lot of times in Nigeria, we operate on the basis of hearsay. You know that this person removes so and so and so. Where is the evidence? Provide the evidence. So for me, we can only fight corruption with evidence.
The league exposes names like Babatunde Fashola, Adams Oshomole, Bukola Saraki, among others, as some Nigerians who have monies in these accounts. Jamila Fegwa, CoreTV News, Abuja.
We now move on to Kano State, where the state government says it has discovered 7,629 ghost workers in its payroll in the ongoing biometric exercise for civil servants in the state. The head of service, Muhammad Awan Naiya, who disclosed this during a joint press conference with the Commissioner for Information, Muhammad Garba, says the state was able to save over 283,580 naira and 848.44 from the blocked ghost workers. Naiya said the state presently has a workforce of over 150,000 civil servants, while it pays over 8 billion naira's monthly salary. The HOS explains the 17 staff were also discovered to be collecting double salary, amounting to over 1 million naira per month, adding that investigation into their matter is still ongoing. As part of efforts by the Kwara State government to fish out ghost workers with the ongoing staff verification exercise, the State Police Command has arrested 4 persons accused of engaging in fake recruitment for local, state and federal government jobs. While briefing journalists in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, the Commissioner of Police, Sam Okwaola, says the suspects have issued more than 20,000 fake employment letters to the workers in Kwara State, collecting between 100 and 300,000 naira for the exercise. He noted that the suspects specialize in forging employment letters and letters of postings of different government agencies and parastatals like the National Hajj Commission, the Nigeria Port Authority, the Kwara State Teaching Service Commission, and the Kwara State Universal Basic Education Board. Sam Okwala describes the scenario as fraudulent and against the law of the country, warning members of the public who have similar cases not to attend the exercise because it can be the end of their service.
These 4 suspects constitute a syndicate that specializes in forging documents for employment and posting personnel to different government agencies, such as Nigerian Hajj Commission, Nigerian Ports Authority, Kwara State Teaching Service Commission, Kwara State Universal Basic Education, etc., etc. As I talk to you now, gentlemen of the press, we have recovered well over 200 letters of appointment and 100 letters of posting from these suspects.
You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take a break now. Return with more stars to stay with us.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Glad to have you back. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. A quick recap of our top stories. For these stories and more of our news stories, you can join us on the social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News, on Twitter at CoreTV News NG, and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV News. The Minister of State for Education, Anthony Anwoka, says the federal government is committed to technological advancements in Nigerian universities. He made a declaration while opening the workshop on electronic technology for Nigerian universities. Bukola Fani's report is presented from our studios.
To the success of the education sector.
The minister says with the introduction of NGREN, the online portal for universities across the country, universities will be able to disseminate information at a reduced cost. This, according to him, will also be done with the use of internet broadband to a large audience.
Our universities, therefore, need to develop robust information resources space and support them as they seek to be global players. We're indeed happy another value is being added to the NGREN by providing electronic books and journals which will be accessed by all the users.
The Executive Secretary, National University Commission, is advising all other universities that are not yet on the online platform to start availing themselves of the technological advancements. He disclosed that only 8 universities are on NGREN board.
We are hoping to connect very soon with Yola too, so that at some point in time, if there's anything happening here in the minister's office or in any of those institutions, all the universities can share. Just as we were discussing yesterday, when you have, developed some materials.
The NGREN network, if embraced by all universities, will make our institutions to be at par with world-class citadel of learning. Bukola Afeni, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The National Primary Health Care Development Agency is seeking the establishment of a National Immunization Trust Fund to mobilize funds for immunization in the country for 2016 and beyond. The Executive Secretary made this known while briefing newsmen on sustainable immunization financing workshop for Anglophone countries. Our correspondent, Bukola Feni's report is presented from our studios.
The agency disclosed that without adequate funding for vaccines, the routine immunization system will experience setbacks, running out of stocks of vaccines, which will lead to vaccine-preventable death and increased illness.
We're also introducing new vaccines beyond the traditional vaccines we have within our immunization schedule. We brought in pentavalent vaccine, which is 5 in 1 shot. We've also brought in pneumococcal vaccine to address the huge high burden we have of pneumonia.
The Executive Secretary says the federal government has been making significant progress in routine immunization, which will make the country to be delisted from the list of polio-endemic countries.
It's over 20 months now without a case of poliovirus in Nigeria. This is a major public health achievement, and other countries have been encouraged to come out and study the Nigerian polio eradication architecture.
Chairman, National Immunization Financing Tax Team, Benayene says the country's immunization is at a critical stage where urgent action is needed to ensure sustainable financing for vaccines. He is demanding adequate funding for vaccines and immunization to be included in the 2016 Appropriation Act before assent.
Without adequate funding for vaccines, the routine immunization system will experience setbacks, such as stockouts of vaccines, that will ultimately lead to increased illness and or death from vaccine preventable diseases.
With adequate vaccines and immunization in the country, under 5 morbidity rate will be reduced drastically. Bukola Afeni, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Policymakers and stakeholders are mapping out the way forward for Nigeria's energy sector. At a forum geared towards creating sustainable energy and making it available for all citizens, several opportunities have been highlighted to improve power generation capacity in the country. Our correspondent, Akin Obake, completes the story.
Despite the fact that Nigeria is blessed with abundance of gas reserves and renewable energy potentials, especially in hydropower and high solar irradiation, the country is still faced with acute electricity supply problems. Nigeria has over 12.5 gigawatts of installed electricity generating capacity, with about 7 gigawatts of that available. However, the average energy generated, transmitted and distributed to end users is less than 4 gigawatts, due largely to gas and transmission constraints. This is a major problem faced by the federal government.
We identified the gas challenge that is being worked on seriously by government and by encouraging private investment in the gas sector. Transmission is entirely government. These are the two areas where you have challenges in the power sector, gas and transmission.
Stakeholders are lauded for creating a synergy with the present administration to provide lasting solutions to the power sector.
I think when you face hardship, a lot of times innovation is what comes out. So today, instead of focusing on the problems and the challenges, I think what's really interesting is that we're talking more about the solutions.
A call is being made to the Buhari-led administration to effectively implement policies geared at improving the energy sector.
With the political will, we have the technical competence. What we might want to improve on is the political will. And I think if we have that, we will be there sooner rather than later.
Similarly, improvement of the energy sector is key to boosting foreign investment and improving the nation's economy.
We can actually surmount it, and it's a challenge that is being tackled now by the present government, and I decided to come personally for this because of my own enthusiasm for bringing investment to Nigeria, and energy is at the root cause of it all. If we can get the energy sector, then we'll get all the other sectors going.
The move to map out a way forward is coming at a time when Nigerians are hard hit by the pathetic state of the power sector, which has affected the economy greatly. The government and stakeholders are urged to show commitment to improving availability and accessibility of energy and electricity for its people. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The Nigerian Association of Surveyors is calling on the federal government to extend infrastructure to satellite towns and suburbs in the Federal Capital Territory. President of the association, James Omeru, made his appeal at a briefing on the forthcoming 46th anniversary of the association. Our correspondent, Kikelomo Kerry, completes the reports.
While addressing newsmen in Abuja, the President, Nigerian Institute of Surveyors, says, according to the statistics, record shows that the Federal Capital Territory is overspilling, and there is need for the association and the federal government to brainstorm on how environmental issues as well as infrastructure in the Federal Capital Territory can be resolved.
In any case, nobody wants to stay at the center. It's congested already. When you stay in the suburb, in the satellite villages, you enjoy your peace.
He further added that the government needs to take proactive action in planning the satellite town as well as the suburb so as to attract people. He further urged the government to take proactive action on structures that is officially for residential and being converted to commercial.
Instead, let your budget address the issues of the suburb, of the satellite villages, so that if you provide these things,
if the necessary steps are being taken to restructure the Federal Capital Territory, it will improve the Nigerian economy. Kikelomo Okeri, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Lagos State government has perfected plan to relocate the popular Mile 12 market. Governor Akinwumi Ambode, who led the delegation to the new site at Imote, about 3 kilometers from Ikorodu, says 25 hectares of land will afford traders more space to do business. Our correspondent, Victoria Solomon, files in this report presented from our studios.
This is Imota, a suburb in the outskirts of the ever-bustling Lagos metropolis. The recent crisis that led to some death and destruction of properties at the Maltov market has led stakeholders, including the state government, traditional rulers, and traders, to a resolution to relocate the market from its present Koshofe local government area location. Governor Akinwumi Ambode on Tuesday visited the proposed site.
We are all aware that we had a little crisis at my 12 market in Ketu recently. And right here now is the new site that we're going to relocate my 12 market.
The Imota community appeared prepared to host business activities that might arise from the relocation, even as the governor appeals for their tolerance and understanding.
I want to appeal to the people of Imota that you'll be having new sets of investors, new sets of traders, and then new sets of tenants. I want to appeal that you should be very accommodating, because we are bringing a whole lot of things to Imota.
This governor has moved the economic heartbeat of Lagos State into Imota here. You are welcome, my governor. All I'm appealing for now is for action to commence on the thing honestly. God Almighty is now residing in Imota.
All things being equal, Lagos State government promises to begin work immediately, projecting a 6-month deadline for Maltov market relocation. The attendant implication for traders, shoppers, transport operators, and the new host community is what Lagosians wait to see.
Also, Lagos State government has engaged the services of health bouncers to support officials with the kick against discipline (KAI) in enforcing the use of pedestrian bridges by residents along major highways in the state. The move has been applauded by residents, even as some express the view that more pedestrian bridges are needed to serve users. Our correspondent, Akion Bake, brings us more in this report.
In ensuring safety of lives, the Lagos State government recently added more personnel made up of bouncers to officials of the kick against indiscipline to check commuters from crossing the busy expressway. However, the number of users of the pedestrian bridge have led to a long queue, especially at rush hours. Many of them who spend close to an hour to cross over using the bridge complain of lateness to work and inconvenience.
I think maybe they should try to expand the bridge, the overhead bridge a little bit, because as the thing is that people are losing a lot of their time just trying over here, because the thing is really very long from the back over there.
I'm speechless, please. I'm speechless.
No comment.
In fact, I'm tired of this queue. Yesterday, I queued for 1 hour before I climbed the bridge yesterday. Look at today now. It's the same thing. Please, we need extra bridge. Please tell the government to do another bridge for us, please.
This kind of thing has never met now. Sealed up. Traffic leg. This one is too much. All this kind of thing will cost riot for here. Because all the move work, all this kind they do. Another people they enter from that place. From that place, like they put another person they enter queue. From back from that place.
Some residents commend the move, but believe adequate plans must be made to forestall the delay.
I think it's a good idea, but they should consider people with health challenges, and not everybody have the cost of going around and take transportation to cross to the other side. It's a good idea if we can maintain it, but they should also improve the bridge. The bridge is difficult to cross.
It's a good idea, but I think we need more bridges, because when we have to get to work, we spend long time on the queue. So we get to work very late. So I think we really need another bridge here.
It's good. It's for the betterment of the citizen. It's just when you have a government that cares for the people, you always want things to be, because no government would like to waste the life of a citizen.
that's the plight of a fellow Lagosian, complaining about the fact that they have to stay on the line for hours just to use the pedestrian bridge. Well, the government is claiming that it's a good step in the sense that they have to save the lives of their people and provide these infrastructures for the people. But they're still calling on the government to do more of this. More bridges, more pedestrian bridges is needed. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
We now move on to Kaduna State. The Judiciary Commission of Inquiry set up by the state government to look into the Army-Shiite clash says it is committed to give fair hearing to all parties involved in the last December clash. The chairman of the commission, Justice Mohammed Lawal Gariba, stated this while addressing newsmen in Abuja. In Kaduna, our correspondent was there and now reports.
Justice Mohammed Lawal says the commission cannot compel any party to appear before it, as several opportunities was given to all parties involved in the clash to submit their memorandum and make presentations before the commission.
The parties directly involved in the incident that happened in Zaria, the provision is that all the parties shall be given adequate opportunity, which is reasonable circumstances of the assignment, to present their own side of the story.
The chairman further speaks on the commission's stance on the Islamic movement in Nigeria, which is fully involved in the incident, and refused to submit their memorandum or appear at the public hearing.
The commission under the law doesn't have the power to compel it to appear, to come and state its own side of the story. So the principle of fair hearing is just to provide adequate opportunity for a party to come and present its own side of the story.
The chairman says the commission will no longer wait for any party, as some parties decided not to utilize the opportunity given to them for fair hearing. He also reiterates the commission's commitment in ensuring that justice is done at the end of the assignment.
CoreTV Primetime News continues shortly after this break with more stories in foreign and sport. Just stay with us.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back on the foreign scene. An explosion in the southern Lebanon city of Sidon has killed an official from the Palestinian Fatah movement. Members of the group said the dead man was identified as Fatih Zaidan, a Fatah official responsible for the Palestinian camp of May in Sidon. They revealed that Zaidan was leaving a meeting in Lebanon in Sidon and heading to Beirut when the blast went off. An army forensics unit arrived at the scene and cleared away scorched body parts lying by the flaming car. More than 450,000 Palestinians are registered in Lebanon with the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, and most live in squalid conditions in 12 official refugee camps. Syria's landmark ceasefire is threatening to fall apart amid a surge of fresh fighting, especially in northern Aleppo province, just as peace talks are set to resume in Geneva. The UN Syria envoy Staffan de Mistura, who says negotiations due to start on Wednesday will be crucially important, is in Iran for talks with a key backer of Syria's President Bashar al-Assad. This week's round of talks in Geneva will be the second since Assad's regime rebel forces agreed to a partial truce brokered by Moscow and Washington, which is largely held since February 27. There are hopes that steps may finally be taken towards resolving the 5-year-old conflict, which has left more than 270,000 dead and displaced nearly half of the country's population. Belgian authorities say 2 men have been charged with offences related to the Brussels bombings and 3 others have been arrested in connection to the Paris attacks. The Belgian Federal Prosecutor's Office said the two who have been charged and identified as Smil F. and Ibrahim F. were involved in renting an apartment in the Elterbeek area of Brussels that served as a hideout for the Belmer who attacked the Brussels subway on March 22. It said in the detention of the three related to the Paris attacks followed a more uncertain Uccle, an upscale district of the Belgian capital. The office disclosed that the judge will decide on Wednesday whether the three people should remain in custody. A committee of Brazil's lower house of Congress has recommended the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff, who faces charges of breaking budget laws to support a re-election in 2014. The committee voted 38-27 in favor of the move, with a vote in the full lower house expected to take place on Sunday. If the upper house decides by a simple majority to put Rousseff on trial, she will immediately be suspended for up to 6 months while the Senate decides her fate, and Vice President Michel Temer will take office as acting president. This will be the first impeachment of a Brazilian president since 1992, when Fernando Collor de Mello faced massive protest over corruption charges and resigned a moment before his conviction by the Senate. Meanwhile, Rousseff's chief of staff, Jacques Wagner, says the president is perplexed and saddened by the committee votes. And now to sports.
Power style, and that's what he delivered.
Nigeria Super Falcons have qualified for the 2016 African Women's Cup of Nations after defeating Senegal 2-0 at the National Stadium, Abuja today. The African heavyweights went toe-to-toe in a frantic second-leg encounter in Abuja, with Igbenogha netting an important second to earn Falcons a ticket. The Super Falcons reached the finals of the competition with a 3-1 aggregate score. Igbenogha or Sare Noma sealed victory for Florence Omagbemi's ladies as Basakwe Derbies labored in vain to claw back to upstage the reigning African queens. With Nigeria joining Egypt, Kenya, Equatorial Guinea, Zimbabwe and host Cameroon, the remaining 4 teams will be decided amongst 4 teams. The final tournament has been fixed for November 19 to December 3 in the Cameroonian cities of Yaoundé and Limbe. In a move to develop the game of handball in Nigeria, a total of 25 teams will jostle for supremacy at the 2016 National Handball Premier League, which begins April 13 in Kaduna. The league will be staged between April 13 and April 24 at the Murtala Square handball pitch in Kaduna. According to the president, Nigerian Handball Coaches Association, John Jatao, 13 male and 12 female teams will participate in the competition. Also, a seminar will be held for coaches during the last 2 days of the event. And finally, AC Milan has confirmed the dismissal of Sinisa Mihajlovic, replacing the Serbian with youth coach Christian Broki. The club this morning released a statement that Mihajlovic had been relieved of his role as AC Milan coach, thanking him for his dedication and hard work all through the season. Club owner Silvio Berlusconi on Monday night invited Broki to dinner to offer him the job, while the chief executive officer Adriano Galliani called Mihajlovic and dismissed him. Mihajlovic has taken to social media to thank the fans for their support. And that's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Thank you very much for staying with us tonight. I am Nina Oragwa. To have a beautiful night rest.